Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Yeonni, and today, as you can see from the title below, I don't quite remember, but from the title, today I wanted to talk about my thoughts as a therapist on the 13 Reasons Why series and a recent study that kind of blew up the internet on the effects of this series, both positive and negative, mostly negative in recent news, on teen suicide rates in the US. This is clearly a very sensitive topic, so I will be putting some resources down below in the description box on this topic and the research that I've done to put this video together. As a professional in the mental health field, I couldn't just read these articles and just kind of sit here, so I have a platform. I thought I would talk about this, and here I am now. So let's just get straight into the video. So pretty much the internet blew up because a study was released recently in the Journal of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. The study is called Association Between the Release of Netflix's 13 Reasons Why and Suicide Rates in the US, an Interrupted Time Series Analysis. So this study found that in April 2017, I believe the series premiered like March 31st or something, so pretty much in April 2017, the month that the series premiered, there was a spike in suicide rates, about 30% in the age group of 10 to 17-year-old teens in the US. The study said that the rate was much higher than the previous 5 years, and after the month that it premiered, while it went down a little bit, overall 2017 suicide rates were much higher than previous years. Some takeaways from this study was that suicide rates for girls between the age of 10 and 17 did not rise as significantly as boys who were in the age group of 10 and 17, which was a surprise to a lot of experts because they believed that since the protagonist of the show was female, many young female teenagers would identify with the protagonist, and which would lead to more suicide completions. But an explanation to this that journals have shown is that females of all ages are 3 times more likely to attempt suicides, but males of all ages are 4 times more likely to actually complete suicide. So there could have been a rise in suicide attempts of females, but men are more likely to complete suicides. When this study was released, as usual, social media and media was very quick to release headlines like new scientific study shows that 13 Reasons Why caused more suicide in teens, which got people buzzing because it was already a very sensitive topic, already a show that was debated quite a lot amongst not only mental health professionals but just people in general because of the fear that it could lead to a suicide contagion. From what I've read from certain articles, right before this article was released, there was a previous one released by UPenn called Investigating Harmful and Helpful Effects of Watching Season 2 of 13 Reasons Why, results of a 2-wave US panel. This study showed that suicide rates for those over the age of 18 actually did not increase, and if anything, many reported declines in suicidal ideation and self-harm relative to those who did not watch 13 Reasons Why at all. And at the end of the day, the results to this study showed that a fictional story with suicidal content can have both helpful and harmful effects on the general population, but more specifically on the teen youth population. That was the article. That's what happened. There were all these articles saying 13 Reasons Why cause more suicide in teens, like burn it down, stop it, especially because season 3 is coming out this year. My opinion on that, not only just opinion, the fact of it all is that correlation doesn't equal causation. If you read the actual study, they're not saying here is the proof for why 13 Reasons has caused more suicide rates. It's an evidence-based hypothesis that was put out into the society for more debate and more conversations. 13 Reasons Why could have had a part in it, but it has not caused it entirely, which I think a lot of people seem to be forgetting. A lot of news media articles may be intentionally leaving that part out to, I don't know, result in more clicks, not sure. Suicide is a very real problem in any age group, and especially in the younger adolescent and teen group. And there is a tendency to not want to talk about it. It's very taboo. It makes us feel sad, and it makes us question, and it makes us afraid of what's going on in the lives of these very troubled individuals. As a therapist in my line of work, when we're doing individual therapy sessions and when we're talking to our patients, a lot of the times certain people might wonder, if someone seems to be suicidal, does talking about suicide raise more suicidal ideation? Is it better to just not talk about it and maybe they won't do it? If I bring it up as a therapist, is it going to trigger them into following through or something like that? But if anything, studies show that being able to talk about suicide more candidly in a safe environment with someone that the person who is troubled feels safe with has shown correlation to reduce suicide rates because they're able to address whatever their trouble is heads on and make a plan. A safety plan is something I do almost every day with my clients at work, where if there's even an inkling of a trigger that could lead to self-harm or suicidal action, especially if there's a history of suicidal attempts, because that's the number one indicator to a future attempt, I always make sure to make a safety plan with the patient, and that's how we know that this person is safe at all times, and me as a professional is doing everything I can to keep this person safe, instead of having an inkling and a potential trigger and just kind of ignoring it, hoping that it won't happen, because you never know what is going to happen. So in my opinion, at least in my practice, I make sure to talk about it. At the end of the day, I applaud Netflix and the series for talking about a very, very stigmatized topic. It's got us all talking. I remember when the series came out and people finished season 1, there was an influx of videos on YouTube, whether it's smaller creators or larger creators making kind of PSA videos and their own personal stories on, dealing with depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation and things like that, and linking the suicide prevention hotline and opening up more conversation and discussion and raising awareness. And I think that is so important and something really brilliant that this series has been doing. However, on the flip side, I do understand that this is a very charged topic, and for individuals who may be more vulnerable, whether adults or youth, being exposed to this topic in such a raw way that the show has portrayed can be triggering and can be dangerous. And I completely admit that. From my research, I've seen that 13 Reasons Why has been consulting with, the JED Foundation, JED Foundation, which is, I believe, Teen Suicide Prevention Group, and asking professionals for advice and recommendations for their next seasons. That's why after the first episode was released, for season 1, I believe, they asked for advice, and then they took their advice by putting in warning cards for triggering content, and also putting in their 13reasonswhy.info link on all of their episodes, where that information links to more resources on getting help for suicide prevention and dealing with depression and mental health problems. Some key findings from a US study from Northwestern University called Exploring How Teens and Parents Responded to 13 Reasons Why surveyed 5,000 teenagers, young adults, and parents on their reaction to 13 Reasons Why. And the findings showed that more than 3/4 of teen viewers reported that the show informed them someone might be suffering from depression even if they don't see the signs. Majority of adolescents and young adult viewers said that watching the series helped them to better understand depression, suicide, bullying, and sexual assault. Nearly 80% of adolescents and young adult viewers reported that watching the story helped them understand their actions, and more than 2/3 were motivated to help someone who is depressed, bullied, or sexually assaulted. This is obviously going to be linked in the description down below for you to read it yourself. Another takeaway was that majority, 70% of parents, wanted more resources, including having mental health professionals provide resources at the end of difficult episodes, constructive criticism in that sense. They also note that while many adolescents and young adults have positive attitudes toward the show, at least from their own specific surveys, it is important to note that not all individuals had the same feelings about the show. For example, adolescents and teens suffering from high social anxiety were more likely to agree that the intensity of the show was appropriate. However, some teens were also more inclined to report that the sexual assault scenes were too intense, which I agree with. I felt like at certain times they were a bit too intense and pretty triggering, honestly. But anyway, this study said that the results for the majority of teens and young adults were promising, and that the findings of this study suggest that tough topic programs like 13 Reasons Why could really be helpful for adolescents to talk about the stressors of their lives. Could be kind of like a catalyst to opening up conversation, which I completely agree with. Clearly, it's a very complex topic, a very complex situation, and a very complex human phenomenon. So there is no simple answer. Did this show cause suicide? Did this lead to that? It's not an A equals B. There's so many factors that play into it, and I am glad that as someone in the mental health field that this show is opening up conversations and having professionals and show producers and teens and parents to all engage in this conversation. So some final wrap-up takeaways that I could end this video with is, 1, when you read articles online, make sure it's from reputable sources. Do your own research, form your own opinions. That's very important. Try to refer to primary sources. Instead of just reading a headline and forming an opinion, try to put in some extra time to really study into what's going on. That way you can be more informed. Number 2, suicide is a very real problem worldwide. We can't just ignore it. And there is a tendency to not want to talk about it. Whether it's fear or curiosity or confusion, whatever it may be, we don't want to talk about it. But it's very important to talk about it because it is a very real phenomenon that is happening worldwide, especially in our youth. Number 3, I am glad that this show is happening. I am cautiously looking forward to season 3 because from what I'm seeing so far, it seems like the producers and the writers of the show are being very careful with the series, keeping an open mind, an open line of communication with mental health professionals to really make sure they're not glamorizing suicide and glamorizing this very stigmatized topic, and instead doing everything they can to use the platform that they have to raise awareness, to bring more resources to people who are watching who may be struggling with depression or anxiety or thoughts of suicide. So I'm glad it's happening. I really am. We're talking about it. We're talking about it right now. And the more we talk, the more we raise awareness, and the more we show those who are struggling that they are not alone in their struggles and that there is help out there. And last but not least, if you or someone you know may be considering suicide or may need some help, please contact the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-825. I'm going to put it up on the screen here. Please don't hesitate to ask for help because you are not alone. And there is someone out there who can help you. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope there were some positive, productive takeaways from this video. If you have any comments or thoughts or concerns, please leave them in the comments down below. I love having open conversations. That's how we can progress as society. And yeah, I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.